Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Johnny TCG video. I'm Johnny TCG. I'm excited to be with you here today because we're talking about one of my favorite leaders in the game. That is right, OP07 Blue Boa Hancock. Now, this leader has been really fun to play for a while, but in OP10, I feel like she's really hit her peak so far. Not quite going to be top tier in the meta, but definitely competitive in the meta, which is an awesome feeling. Today, I've got a day one OP10 deck list for you. Then we're going to do a custom leader giveaway. You know we do custom leader giveaways on this channel in just about every video. Sometimes it's a custom Don, sometimes it's a custom leader. Today, we've got a custom leader for you. And then, of course, we've got games on the sim, trying out this deck list, seeing how it goes, and talking about it afterwards. Looking at Boa's leader ability, she is a 5,000 5-life mono blue leader. Activate main once per turn. When a card leaves the field due to one of your effects, if your hand is at 5 or less cards, you get to draw a card from your deck. This is great for a couple of reasons. First, you're just going to build your deck around bouncing characters anyway because you are a blue deck, and so therefore it works very well with your leader ability. You're going to be able to trigger it a lot. And then also, this allows you to counter out of attacks early that you wouldn't normally counter out of. You're going to be using counter early because you're going to want to keep a low hand size so that you can draw cards off your leader ability. Drawing cards off of your leader ability is also going to allow you to see more of the cards you need. If you're going through your deck faster than your opponent, you're going to see the cards you need in that matchup. Hopefully. Of course, she's less popular than OP01 Doflamingo, but she does use a lot of the same cards. Their style's not quite the same, but you will see some overlap. I think if you're really interested in playing some of the 7 Warlords package or just a blue deck in general, but don't want to play the most meta deck right now, she's a great option. First, we're going to start off with the 3-cost 4,000 power Don Quixote Doflamingo from OP01. 1,000 counter on this blocker, and on play, he lets you set the top 5 cards of your deck either at the top or bottom of your deck in any order that you'd like. This is great because we're going to want to set up our draws to maximize our leader ability. Because we're drawing so much, we want to make sure those cards we're drawing are actually relevant in the current matchup, so it's not that uncommon to put the cards at the bottom of your deck if you're really looking for a specific card. For example, Gravity Blade Raging Tiger or Gum Gum Red Rock. In some matchups, those cards are necessary, so being able to find them is crucial. 1-cost Kaya, 0 power but 2k counter. We love that 2k counter. On play, you draw 2, trash 2. This is a great way to filter your hand, and then Kaya is an amazing card to bounce back into your hand with some of your abilities. Your 4-cost Trafalgar Law and your Jozu are going to be cards that bounce back your own characters to hand, and the 2k counter is a great one to get back. You can just keep playing her if your opponent can't deal with her, and then keep recycling cards and finding the cards you need in that certain situation. 3 10-cost 12,000 power Kaidos from OP04. I'd say this is probably your best option for a boss monster in this deck. 10-cost 12,000 power is a massive stat line, and then on play you get to bounce a cost 8 and 3-cost character back to the original owner's hand. I say original owner and not just your opponent because you can bounce cards back to your own hand. I've definitely done it where I've bounced an opponent's 8-cost and then my own 3-cost. This is the perfect response to an OP01 Kid. If your opponent plays 8-cost Kid on the board and maybe a 2-cost Rosinante, being able to bounce them back to their hand feels so good. I think 3 is a really good number for him because he is also a brick and we don't need to see him in every single matchup, but when you can play him safely, you're going to be in a great position. Next, we got 2 copies of OP06 Charlotte Pudding, 4-cost 4,000 power, 1k counter. You all know her, you all love her. Making your opponent shuffle their cards back into their deck and then draw 5 cards can really hurt if the situation is right. If they have like 9 cards in hand, that is -4 cards from their hand, and that's crazy. Just having this in your deck is a threat in itself, just because your opponent has to play around it, and they'll probably be keeping it in the back of their mind when they're considering whether to take a life or counter out of a hit, just because they don't want to get too many cards in hand because they might get hit with the pudding. I think 2 is a good number because I don't really think we need it in every match. Just the threat of her is scary enough for your opponent, but if you want to play more, I won't call you crazy. 4-cost 5,000 power 2k counter Crocodiles from OP07. This is a great searchable 2k off of our Sengoku searcher. He also has the ability to bounce back a cost 2 or less character at the price of rusting 1 Don. That can be a little bit awkward sometimes because that means you can't really play him until your 5 Don turn to use his ability as well. But if you don't use his ability, he can also just be a good body to play off the Jinbei and develop 2 bodies to pressure your opponent. Of course, the man, the myth, the legend, the card that nobody wants banned, 4-cost 5,000 power Jinbei with 1,000 counter. On play, you get to play a 7 Warlords of the Sea character with a cost of 4 or less. Our prime target for this is usually going to be the 4-cost starter deck Law. This allows you to bounce 1 4 or less character back to your hand and then bounce one of your opponents or just another one of your characters back to your hand as well, cost 4 or less of course. This combo is amazing, especially if you have a 1-cost character already on the board like Kaya. If you're not playing for Trafalgar Law and for Jinbei, that doesn't seem right to me, but it's possible I'm just a silly guy with a microphone on YouTube after all. Next up, we have 4 Sengoku Searchers. I love this card in this deck. You're going to be looking for some of your Warlords characters, of course. Your Law specifically, your Jinbei's not a bad option either. Dofi and Crocodile are also targets as well. This is also the perfect card to bounce back to our hand and either use it as counter or get use of it by playing it again, sometimes that same turn, which is pretty crazy. I don't have much to say about a Searcher card like this. For Jozu might be a lot. Maybe we cut this down to 3, but Jozu's just so strong, specifically in this deck as well. 6 cost, 7,000 power with 1k counter. On play, you bounce back one of your characters to your hand, then you get to bounce back one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less. Being able to play this on your 6th on turn and hitting whatever your opponent played the turn before is so strong. Sometimes it can be awkward because if your opponent cleared whatever characters you had previously established on the board, you won't be able to get his effect off because you won't be able to return a character to your hand. That feels bad, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. Now, looking at new support for this deck, 7 cost, 9,000 power, Kairos, I don't know how you say it, let me know in the comments down below. 7 cost for a 9,000 power body is really strong. Then he's got the good on play of returning a cost 5 or less character to your opponent's hand. For a 7 cost, we would love for it to hit a little bit more than a 5 cost, but that 9,000 power is just so strong, especially early game. Like if you're on the odd curve, getting this out on turn 4 feels very strong. And depending on what kind of deck your opponent's running, they might not have a good answer to it. A 9,000 power body is just so strong. How many times do I gotta say it? There will be some awkward times where we would love to play down the Kyros, but unfortunately, we need to hit a 6 cost body and we'll play a Jozu instead. Now, Jozu, of course, being 2,000 power less does hurt, but what are we going to do in that situation, you know? 4 of the starter deck 3 1-cost 1,000 power Trafalgar Law blockers. This is the definition of a chump blocker. We love throwing this on the field just to delay the game and make the game go longer. Some decks can't really deal with chump blockers ideally, so they're just going to have to swing and we get to get value out of it for 1 Don. How can you hate it? We already talked about the 4-cost Law. What more is there to say? He's an absolute unit in this deck. Running 4 of course. Next up, we're running 3 1-cost buggies. The 1-cost 2,000 power 2k counter buggy from the new Doflamingo starter deck. On play, we get to sort the top 3 cards of our deck and then put them back at the top. Not as good as the 3-cost Dofi, of course, but for 1 cost and then it's a 2k counter, that's a great card that we can bounce back to our hand. I'm not ideally playing it out as much as I am with probably Kaya on turn 1 or Sengoku, but it is a good last resort. A 2k counter is not bad either. I'm not complaining about that. For Gum Gum Red Rock, this card is just so good in this deck, and in a meta where there's going to be a lot of big bodies like 8-cost Kid, 10-cost Shanks, 8-cost Rayleigh, you're going to want to see this card. There are not many matchups in which I'm not going to use this card. If my opponent's playing low to the ground, then I probably won't get value out of it unless I get it for the trigger. A trigger that allows you to bottom deck one of your opponent's 4-cost characters is so strong. Of course, Gum Gum Red Rock is a 6-cost event. Bottom deck any of your opponent's characters. That's amazing. His flagship winning list was actually running 1 copy of the 2-cost Houndblaze from OP10. Many people have PTSD with this card because of how good it was in OP10 Sakazuki. It's of course not as good in this deck as it was in OP10 Sakazuki, but it is still pretty convenient in certain situations. I think running it as a 1-of is pretty fun and worth it. 2 cost, then activate main, you give up to one of your characters plus 3,000 power, then you bottom deck one of your opponent's characters. You have to be careful on the sim because you can technically bottom deck your own character, so be careful with those clicks. This is a great way to get rid of a Marshall D Teach 2 cost in the Dofi matchup. There are other chump blockers that would be great targets for this as well. I would encourage you to try this card out and let me know how you feel about it in your deck. Last but not least, we are running 2 copies of Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. It seems like 2 is the move, but 3 is not a bad idea either, just because this is really such a strong card. If your opponent has 2 cost 6 or less bodies and you really need to get rid of both of them this turn to relieve some pressure, then this is going to be the way to do it. I could see myself going up to 3, but 2 does feel fine right now. Some other cards for you to consider in this deck. First off, we have the 9 cost 9,000 power Dracula Mihawk from OP01. This card has kind of gotten power crept a little bit. On play, you get to bottom deck a 7 cost or less. Now, this can be really strong in certain circumstances, but if your opponent just develops an 8 drop and now you're trying to play out this 9 drop that only can hit a 7, it's not going to be that useful. I think you're not crazy to run one of these in your deck, but any more than that probably isn't a great idea. Next, we have the 6 cost 8,000 power Boa Hancock from OP07. I really like this card, and I'm still debating whether or not to put it in this deck, maybe take out a Jozu or a Kiros. 6 cost 8,000 power is a really strong stat line. Then on play, you get to prevent one of your opponent's characters not named Monkey D. Luffy from attacking next turn, and then you get to bottom deck a cost 1 or less character, whether it's yours or your opponent's. Either way, that does let you get the leader ability to draw a card. No counter isn't great, but I do think this is a strong card, and I really want to put it in my deck, maybe cut out 1 or 2 cards to fit a copy in there. And then last but not least, we do have the 7 cost 7,000 power Don Quixote do Flamingo from starter deck 3. On play, you get to bounce back a 7 cost character back to your opponent's hand. This is amazing on curve. This is searchable with Sengoku too, because it is a 7 Warlords of the Sea character, and so for those reasons, it does seem better than Kiros. Now, the thing is, Kiros is a 9,000 power body, and 9,000 is just so strong. In the Shanks matchup in particular, 7,000 power Doflamingo can get bumped down to just 6,000 using Shanks' leader ability, which is an easy 2k out of. Kiros, on the other hand, is 9,000 power. Even with Shank's ability, that's still an 8,000 power swing that your opponent is going to have to deal with 2 2Ks. For those reasons, I'm not running this card, but I don't think this is a bad idea maybe as a one-of. Maybe I'll try that. So, let me know in the comments down below what you think of this list. It's probably not going to be tier 1 this meta, but it will be up there, maybe in the 1.5 tier, tier 2, I don't know. You tell me what you think. And of course, before we get into the gameplay, we do have a giveaway for you. Today, we're going to be giving away a custom Boa Hancock leader using art from the One Piece Treasure Cruise game. Editor, throw it up on screen. Boom. I am not the artist here. I'm not claiming to be the artist. I am not selling this. It's just a fun fan project. All you have to do to enter this giveaway and win this card for completely free is 1, leave a like, and 2, leave a comment. It's as simple as that. If you want to win the card, leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll choose one random US-based commenter, send it to you for completely free. And if you're feeling inclined to support the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button down below. It really helps the channel out, keeps you up to date with the video releases, it keeps you up to date with the giveaways, and it makes me feel good. So consider hitting that subscribe button. It means a lot to the channel. That's enough of me yapping though. Editor, roll the gameplay. Our first game of the day is going to be against Nico Robin from OP09. This could be a very interesting matchup depending on the type of build they run. I know some builds really focus on the big bodies like a 10 cost ace, while others prefer a more rush focused build with the purple straw hat package like the OP09 Sanji rush and the OP09 Monkey D. Luffy 9 cost rush. Turn 1, we're going to start off with the 1 cost Trafalgar Law Blocker from starter deck 3. There's an argument to save this for later on in the game, but I think playing him out now is worth it to protect our life from the banish. Now, I kinda maybe should have played Kaya on turn 1 as well, so I would have been able to get some card draw. I could have been able to find a card to play with Jinbei this turn. I decided to wait just because I wanted to keep the 2k in case I didn't play her this turn. But in hindsight, maybe I should have played her and cycled out my hand a bit. Depending on what Nico Robin swings for, I probably will take this hit. If they throw a bunch of Don on her, I don't really have a ton of counter, so I might just have to let it go. Next turn, we will be in a good spot, though. We can play the Jozu and bounce back whatever body they play this turn. They're going to give their leader 1 Don and swing for only 6,000. Now, this I am considering countering out of with the Jinbei Law. Maybe questionable a little bit, so I actually decided to take that hit, and it ends up being a Gum Gum Red Rock. That feels really bad, but Jinbei Law, getting rid of both of those felt bad as well, so that's why I didn't end up doing that. They hit us with the 5 cost Egghead Nami to pop our Kaya, and this makes things really awkward. I can't bounce that Kaya back to my hand, and so Jozu does not get the same value now. I decide I'll probably just go for a Jinbei Doflamingo play, and we'll start off our turn by swinging 7,000 with our leader. Is their trigger? They do get the Nico Olivia trigger, which allows them to draw 3, and then I believe it's trash 2. They trash an X-Drake from OP10, and then the EBO1 Shirahoshi, and now we'll do Jinbei into Doflamingo. I don't know how I feel about this. We do have a lot of 2Ks in there. We do have a bounce law. What I really like about it is those 10 drop Kaidos. I think late on in the game, those will be a menace for our opponent to deal with. I don't think that yellow really has a great way of dealing with those big bodies except maybe Raigo. The question is, can we really survive that long to where we're in a position we can safely play those Kaidos? For 6 Don, they're going to play a Nico Robin from OP09 to trash the top card of our life. They trashed the Houndblaze, which is that spice we're running with. 7,000 at us now with their leader. I say we just block this, and we do. Now they'll probably swing 6,000 or 5,000 with their Ekonami, and we are just going to take that, seeing what we can get. Kyros, not really the best card in this situation, but I guess it could be worse, maybe. This turn, we are in an amazing position to use Gravity Blade, Raging Tiger. First, we're going to swing 5,000 into the Nami just to get counter out of hand, and they do counter out of that with the 2K. Now I'm thinking about swinging 6,000 into it with the Boa, and if they do take this, we can play the Jozu instead of the Gravity Blade, Raging Tiger. They're going to counter out of that one as well. This is huge for us. Use Gravity Blade, Raging Tiger, bottom deck both of those, and we draw a card, which is our 10 cost Kaido. We are in a pretty good position, if I say so ourselves. We can drop this 10 cost Kaido next turn, and we're still relatively okay. With 4 cards in hand, I think I really don't want to see a 10 cost Ace, a 9 cost Yamato, or a 9 cost Rush Luffy. Any of those would feel pretty bad for us. It looks like we won't see that though. They're just going to throw 9 down on their leader and swing 14,000 at the Jinbei to clear it. Now that's an unfortunate situation. I think their hand must have been pretty bricked up, because swinging 14,000 into Jinbei definitely feels bad. We're going to swing 5,000 into their leader, which they will take, which surprises me. They left the Don up. Now would I understand why they took that, so they could heal with Yamato anyway. They'll swing 5,000 at us, and we will just 1k counter out of that. As you see, we did drop the 10 cost Kaido, even though it didn't get us any value, but I think just establishing the big body was worth it. We're going to play down the Kaya, mainly looking for a Gum Gum Red Rock right here. Unfortunately, we don't find it. We'll just do some card cycling. Now we'll play down the Sengoku, looking for a 7 Warlords character, and we will just take the Buggy because it's a 2k. I think we might play the Jozu here and bounce back our Kaya and Sengoku. That seems like a decent play to me. Now we're going to swing 7,000 with our leader. We might see the Gum Gum Giant here to safely get out of this hit, because they probably won't want to counter out of my Kaido swing. They will use the Gum Gum Giant, trash the Onami, and get out of that hit. Now 12,000 with Kaido. They will take that, go down to 1 life. They probably have something that'll heal them a life this next turn, but it is what it is. Now we're going to play down Jozu, bounce back the Kaya and the Sengoku. It feels great to get those cards back in my hand. I can play them next turn to continue to look for the cards I need if I really want to, or I can just, of course, use them as counter. They do have a Raigo, which is interesting. I don't think many Nico Robins run that card. That gets rid of my 10-drop Kaido and really catches me off guard. 7,000 now with their leader. I think countering out of this is the move. I think Buggy would have been a better card to trash instead of the Kaya, so we trashed the Kaya and the Sengoku, but I think Buggy would have been better than the Kaya. We did have another one though, so it doesn't really matter. We do get the Gum Gum Red Rock, which is amazing. We can pop the Yamato with that, and now we'll swing 7,000 with our Jozu. 2 Don left up. They probably have another Gum Gum Giant, and if they do, they'll likely use it unless they have the counter. They will use it, trash the Jewelry Bonnie, draw 2 cards, and get out of that hit. Now we're just going to swing big with our leader. I don't think it makes sense to play any bodies. I mean, the 4-cost Crocodile could be okay to establish, but I think swing big would just make more sense, so we can put them to 0 hopefully, or get them to use another Gum Gum Giant. We do put them to 0. They probably have another Yamato or something, to be honest. They always do. Maybe an Ace would be really strong here too. They end up hitting us again with the Raigo. They don't have any life to trash, so they're still at 0, and then they're going to swing 5,000 at us, which we will happily counter out of. 4 down left up. I wonder if they have a blocker or something. If not, I could maybe just swing big into life. I don't know if I'll do that though, just because it seems a little bit risky, especially with the deck that can play Gum Gum Giant. They're going to play the Brûlée for 3 and leave 1 Don up. I have a feeling that 1 Don is for the Gum Gum Giant. We're going to play the Kairos here to pop the Brûlée back to hand and then just swing 8,000. I think that makes more sense than the 10-drop Kaido in this situation. I think that Kairos is just a big body that'll be able to help us swing next turn, and then it also got the job done and allowed us to swing with our leader. We also could have went the Trafalgar Law route, maybe playing down Kaya first, playing down Law, bouncing it back to hand, and then leaving that as another attacker next turn too. But I think that was the right call in this situation, because Kairos will be more annoying to deal with. 10 down for them to work with. Will we see an Ace? Will we see a Yamato? Will we see a Rush card? You tell me, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like we'll see nothing of the sort. They're just going to swing 12,000 into our life, which we will have to take. Unfortunately, this does put us at 0. 3 Don, they have another Brûlée, and this is where I think we should do the Trafalgar Law play. I mean, it would have made more sense to do Trafalgar Law there, being more Don efficient, but I don't think it matters too much. We do have that one Trafalgar Law, the 1 cost that we can put up as a blocker if they can get out of these swings, and they can get out of the 12,000 swing, which is crazy. I'm like, dang. Moment of truth here. Do I swing with 6,000 or do I swing with 5,000? I'm just going to do 5,000. I'm going to be a little bit of a scaredy cat. They are going to be able to counter out of that, and now I'm feeling kind of like a fool that not using my Trafalgar Law to bounce the Brûlée was really a big deal in hindsight. So misplay there. If they have the 7-cost Rush Sanji that can rest my Trafalgar Law, I might just lose here. Maybe. I actually have a decent amount of counter in hand, so I'm not too worried about it. Now, 10 Don for them to work with. What are they going to be able to come up with? They let me know that the 6K actually would have won me the game, so I played it a little bit too safe. But they don't have anything this turn. They're going to play down the new Eustace Captain Kidd from OP10. We're still going to be able to get out of this hit, though. We're going to win this game, and that's great news. They didn't really see a lot of their top end in this matchup, which is rough for them. I'm sure they would have liked to find some bigger bodies, and if they did find those, this game probably would have went differently. I think we did a really good job, though, regardless. Now we are going to go with the rematch. I think that's a really fun matchup, and yeah, I'm down to run it back. Let's see what we can do. See if we can win it a second time in a row, or if they'll be able to get the redemption. They choose to go first, which is fine with us. I think we do prefer to go second in most matchups, just because we have a lot of cards that are on the even curve, and it makes sense for us. 1 Don, we do have another 1-cost Trafalgar Law blocker to come in handy if they do swing 8,000. They will 8,000 at us, and I think we just block here with the Law blocker. That seems to be the move. Those Law blockers really come in handy in this matchup. No great plays for 4 Don for us, so I think we're just going to swing 6,000, then play down the 3-cost Dofi. They'll take that first hit, and then we will play down the Dofi, sorting our deck and then leaving it at the top. I think this is going to be pretty strong. We do see that 10-cost Kaido, which we love, of course. We see a Jinbei and another 1-cost Trafalgar Law blocker, which we like as well. No Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, which we would like to see in this matchup, but I think we'll be all right, at least for now. With 6 Don to work with, they'll give 1 Don to their leader, then swing 6,000 at us. I have a feeling with that 5 Don, they could play a Egghead Nami, so I'm debating on whether or not I want to block with my Doflamingo here. I decided to just counter because if I want to play this Jozu next turn, I will need something on board to bounce back to my hand. They end up going with the 5-cost Miss All Sunday. I absolutely love that card. Being able to ramp it on and draw a card is just so good. And then it also has that trigger, which we love. Now, Jozu's going to be the move here. It definitely feels weird to bounce that Dofi blocker back into our hand after it got not a ton of value, but to get the Miss All Sunday off the board makes sense to me. Now, there's an argument here that normally I would swing first with my leader in the situation, but the reason I didn't is because if they got a trigger to pop my Dofi blocker, then my Jozu plan would have been foiled. They're already at 10 Don, which is kind of crazy. I was just at 6 and now they're at 10. 8-cost Kidd is really strong in this situation. They're able to trash my Gravity Blade Raging Tiger from the top of our life. Now 7,000 at us. We kind of have to take that. I think maybe we should have ended up countering out of that just because we do have a lot of cards. It ended up being a Gum Red Rock. So yeah, not the best turn for us. A very strong turn from them. Not a great turn for us. We are going to do a Gum Red Rock here. I think it does feel a little bit weird. We still are only at 8 Don. I think with our remaining 2 Don, we should swing 6,000 and then leave 1 up for our 1-cost blocker. 6,000 now with our leader. Do they have the counter? They probably do. They have a ton of cards in hand. Charlotte Pudding would be very nice. They end up getting the Brûlée trigger, which is whatever, not really a game changer. 7,000 now, they will counter out of that, and we will do our 1-cost Trafalgar Law blocker. Next turn, they might get hit with the Charlotte Pudding. Wow, I wish I had the Gum Red Rock to pair with the Charlotte Pudding this next turn. 5,000 at us now with their leader, and we will counter out of that. We are in an interesting spot here. We do draw the 10-drop Kaido, but that's not really going to help us clear their board at all. With 8 cards in hand, I think we have to go with Charlotte Pudding here. Maybe get rid of their Gum Giants, because I know they've got one. They've always got one. Now we'll do 7,000 with our Jozu. If they give us a Gum Giant, so be it. Hopefully they didn't draw into a better hand. Sometimes that does happen with Charlotte Pudding, where you use it and your opponent ends up drawing into a better hand, which feels bad. They will counter out of that attack, and now I've got 6 Don left to work with. I'm thinking maybe we do a 3-cost Doflamingo blocker and then swing 8,000 with our leader. We could do 2 Dofi blockers, but I think that might not be kind of enough for us. I think we'd rather just swing big, put pressure on their life, and then play down the Dofi blocker. So we're at the top of our deck. Maybe we put this at the bottom so that we can find a Gum Red Rock. I'm debating on that, and yes, we do go with the bottom deck. I pass it back to them with 10 Don for them to work with. And now for 8 Don, they have another Eustace Captain Kidd, so they can trash the top of our life. Oh, brother, they've got a lot of big bodies this game. 7,000 or 9,000 to my 7,000 Jozu. I am going to counter or block that with our Doflamingo. Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially losing it, and we are only 12 minutes into the gameplay. Now, 2 Don left to work with. They're definitely pondering if they should swing into the Jozu or my life. 6,000. We are going to counter this with both of our 1k counters. It really doesn't matter, though, because I think I have to go for game this turn anyway. Even if I were to set up a blocker, yeah, it just would not have gone well. I'm going to start off with a 5,000 power swing with my leader. I think this is the incorrect math. Just because I'm still not sure what I want to do. I was considering doing the Kaido, but even if I bounce back that Eustace Captain Kidd on play, they'll be able to rest it and trash a life. So yeah, not a good situation for us to be in. Now we're going to do a 7,000 power swing with our leader. They take that, which really surprises me. No trigger, and so I guess we're just going to throw it all on Charlotte Pudding and swing big. Can we get the 14,000 hit with Charlotte Pudding? If this fails, ladies and gentlemen, we lose this game, no doubt, unless we get some sort of epic trigger or they don't do their math right. And yes, we get it. They end up not being able to get out of that. They definitely would have been able to get out of the Jozu swing. I'm not sure why they didn't counter out of that. I wonder what their logic was. Yeah, I mean, GG's. That last one was a little bit weird, but GG's nonetheless. Tough one. Now we are going to go against Shanks, which we do have the favored matchup, I think, in the Shanks, but I always think it's a little bit difficult, you know, because you can't really play exactly to curve and swing with your leader. But we do have a lot of ways to get rid of their big bodies that other decks do not have. We're going to start off on our 1-down turn with a Buggy Search. Nothing too crazy. We do find that Trafalgar Law 4 cost, which we will be able to use to bounce a Lucky Roo if they do play it. 2 down for them to work with. They end up playing the 1-cost Building Snake, which is basically a Film Gordon or a Raise Max, but specifically for Shanks. That is going to be a little bit annoying to deal with. I need to bounce that from the board so it doesn't get value. We're going to start off probably just doing an 8,000 swing with leader. I don't think playing down the 3-cost Dofi does much for us this turn. They'll let that hit go through, and then we will just pass it back to them, 4 down for them to work with. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a 7,000 power swing and then leave 2 down up for a Gum Gum Red Hawk. I think that would make a lot of sense. We'll just see a 5,000 swing from them, which I think it makes sense to counter. We'll give them the 3-cost Doflamingo blocker. That Doflamingo blocker is going to be easy for them to remove with a variety of different characters, so that's why I'm kind of like, I don't think it's going to have much value in this matchup. Now, they're going to play it on the 4-cost Sanji, oh my god, Tony Chopper from OP10. It's obviously got Sanji artwork. Now, 5 down for us to work with. The question is, which character do I bounce back to their hand? Tony Chopper or the Building Snake? Both there are good arguments for. I'm leaning towards the Tony Chopper 4-cost just because that will provide them more value. I think this law can get removed pretty easily regardless of the Building Snake, and so I think we're fine to just leave that Building Snake there. If they use it to get rid of law, so be it. 6,000 at them now. They could use leader ability and then give us a 1k to get out of that. I'd expect them to do that, or just give us a 2k if maybe they don't have any 1ks they want to get rid of, and that seems to be the case. They're not going to use leader ability. They're just going to trash the 2k. Maybe the only 1ks they have in their hand are cards like Ben Beckman or Lucky Roo that they're trying to keep towards later in the game. For 5 down, they do have the Yasab, which is great for them. They're going to be able to get plus 1,000 until the start of their next turn. So 6,000 at us now. We'll give them the 2k counter, and they have 1 down left up, which they won't do anything for. Maybe they've got a guard point. Now, we are in the perfect situation, though, because we can drop the Kyros and bottom deck or send that Yasab back to hand. Unfortunately, we can't swing with our leader or our law just because they are a 6,000 power leader. 8 down for them to work with this turn, and we do see a very nicely timed Silver's Rayleigh, the 8-cost 8,000 power from OP10, the secret rare. What a great card. That card is expensive for a reason. They're able to get rid of my Trafalgar Law and then minus the power of my Kyros. 5,000 at us now, and we will counter out of that with the Sengoku Searcher, just a 1k. Now, we don't really have any amazing plays for 9 Don. I'm thinking maybe we do Kyros to pop their Building Snake and just establish another big body. We may put down the Kaya just to filter our hand a little bit. We definitely need to find our red rocks before they start playing out all their big bodies. Unfortunately, if we don't have any red rocks, we're just going to lose control of this game, and they're just going to flood the board with their 10-cost Shanks, their Dragons, their Rayleighs, etc. Now, I've got 8 down to work with. That Kaya did not really get us much. I'm thinking we maybe do Trafalgar Law, bounce back the Kaya, bounce back the Building Snake, and we get to draw a card off leader ability. They are at 8 cards in hand, which means we could hit them with the Charlotte Pudding. That might be the move. We're going to start off with a 5,000 power swing from leader, which they will use leader ability to make that a 4,000. That makes total sense. I'm debating here if I want to go wide and play like a Jinbei and a Crocodile, or if I want to do the Charlotte Pudding play, and should I do the Charlotte Pudding play before I swing with the Kyros or after? I think technically I really should do before, just because I imagine they wouldn't take that life and instead just give us a 2k counter from hand. So we put them back to 5 cards. Hopefully that was a good pudding. Sometimes it can be a bad pudding, but I'm hoping that it was a good one. We got a lot of cards out of their hand, so at the end of the day, I think it is just necessary. 5,000 at us now with their leader. I think we should counter out of this either with our Kaya or a Jinbei. At this point in the game, I don't know how much value Jinbei really has, just because it's too small of a body. Now 10 down for them to work with. We could see a 10 cost Shanks. That would definitely feel bad and be quite oppressive. Maybe we'll get lucky and find the Gum Gum Red Rock. They will do the pop Shanks, which pops our Kyros, which feels definitely bad, but we do have the Kaya to do a 2-card cycle, and we do find that Gum Gum Red Rock, which we will be hitting that Shanks with this turn. We're going to get rid of the 2k Buggy, which getting rid of a 2k does feel weird, but in this situation, I think that makes the most sense to get rid of. We'll use the Gum Gum Red Rock. We get leader ability and draw into another Red Rock, which is amazing for us. I'm thinking doing 8,000 with our leader, but then I change my mind to do 7,000, and then I'll leave 1 down for our Trafalgar Law 1-cost blocker. 7,000 at their leader now. Will they counter out of this? They will let that hit go through. Makes sense to me. They don't have a lot of cards in hand, and they probably did not want to counter out of that. Now with 1 Don left up, I will play down the 1-cost Trafalgar Law blocker. I'm not going to swing with my 4-cost Law just because they still had leader ability available, and they would have just made it a 4k swing. 10 Don for them to work with. Are we going to see a big body? I think that would be best for them. Swing 5,000 at us. We will probably block with Law, or maybe we'll counter 1k. We do go with the Law blocker just in case they played like a Rayleigh. They'd be able to pop it. They'll swing 8,000 with the Rayleigh now, and we will take it. In hindsight, maybe I should have saved the Trafalgar Law blocker and countered out of the leader swing, but at the same time, they could have just popped it with something else. So I don't know what's right. You let me know in the comments down below what you thought of my play that turn. Now they play down a Beckman. They put down another Building Snake to potentially use again. 10 down for us to work with, but I don't know what the clear best play is. I guess a Gum Gum Red Rock to get rid of the Rayleigh's the best. We will do that. We get to draw a card off our leader ability, and we find another 1-cost Law blocker, which I think is really good in this matchup. Of course, they have a lot of ways to remove it, but at least it's just a cheap chump blocker that maybe they won't have a way to get rid of. 7,000 now with our leader, or 8,000. They use leader ability and then use the 0-cost event. It's kind of crazy this far into the game. They only have 3 cards in their trash. We are going to pass it back to them after we play the 1-cost Law blocker. 10 down for them to work with. A Building Snake on the field, a Ben Beckman on the field. This is going to get scary real quick. We do have 2 2Ks and 2 1Ks in our hand, but nothing that can really get rid of any big bodies. Luckily, it seems they don't have a big body to play this turn. 8,000 at us with their leader. I'm thinking about blocking with our Trafalgar Law because they still have 7 down up, and I could see them playing a 7-cost Whitebeard to pop our Law if they wanted to. Now 2 down on their Beckman. They're going to be able to swing 9,000 at us, and we'll just take that. In hindsight, I think I probably should have countered out of it just because I do have a decent amount of cards in hand, and I want to protect my life a little bit more. Now, we are in a decent position to get rid of this Lucky Roo. We can do that with our Kyros, but I think I probably should have done the Jozu just because I would have been able to put a 2k Kaya back in our hand as well. Kyros, though, is just so much better offensively that I think it's worth putting him out. We're going to swing 8,000 with their leader. They will take that. We get them down to 2 life, which is a pretty good feeling. It's been a grindy game, 10 down. We might see a big body here, and we don't have a Gum Gum Red Rock, which makes me very nervous. A 10 drop Kaido would also be insane here, being able to pop back the Ben Beckman and the Building Snake back to their hand. But if they have like a 10 cost Rush Shanks, we're just going to be in a really bad spot. 5,000 at us now with their leader. We definitely have to give them a 1k here. I think the Jinbei is probably the best card to give them right now. I guess we do have 2 Jozus though, but the Jozus get more value being able to bounce back cards to hand. Now 7,000 with Beckman into our leader. We're going to counter out of this as well. We'll give them a 2k, 1k, 1 Crocodile, 1 Jozu. That seems like the right play to me. 10 Don still for them to work with. The moment of truth, ladies and gentlemen. They will activate Building Snake to give minus 3,000 to Kyros. Then they're going to use Divine Departure, which is a new event in OP10. That's really cool. It's got an activate main, then it also can be used as a counter. Then with the remaining Don, they played the Lucky Roo. Even though they got rid of the Kyros that turn, I still think that was a decent turn for us. We kept our life relatively safe. Then that Lucky Row will be easy for us to remove. We can do that with our Trafalgar Law or the Jozu. Debating which one to do. The Jozu, of course, does have more value because it's going to be stronger and easier for us to attack. But at the same time, the Trafalgar Law uses less Don. Now we do get the Gum Gum Red Rock off of our leader ability, which is amazing. I'm so happy about that. It's tempting to use it on the Ben Beckman, but I will not do that this turn. I think I really need to save that for a bigger body. Instead of perhaps establishing a Jozu, even though it wouldn't get a lot of value, we're just going to pressure life this turn. 7,000 now with our Charlotte Pudding. They'll probably use leader ability, then give us a 2k, and that is exactly what they're going to do. Leader ability, Otama 2k. Now 8,000 with our Boa Hancock. Let me know in the comments what you thought about that. Should I have pressured life with only my leader and swung 5,000 and then played down the Jozu to bounce back the Pudding? I think that we did the right play just because now they only have 3 cards in hand and 2 life. We are whittling them down. 7,000 at our leader with Ben Beckman. We are going to counter out of this. We'll give him 2 2Ks just because we want to keep the Jozu in our hand. That has a lot of utility. For 10 down, we're finally going to see the big bad 10 cost Rush Shanks come out from OP10. Now 5,000 at my 3,000 power Charlotte Pudding. I've definitely got to let this go. I think countering out of that would be pretty crazy. Now they'll be able to swing 12,000 to our life, and we will have to take that. We get the Hound Blaze, which I don't think will get us much value at the end of the game. We do have the Gum Gum Red Rock to answer that Shanks, which is nice. Now I'm debating on if I can pressure this Ben Beckman or if I should just go for life. I think I have to clear the Ben Beckman here. If not, I might just lose. We're going to give plus 3,000 to our Trafalgar Law and then give him an additional 2 Don. If we can clear this Ben Beckman, we're going to be in such a good spot. 10,000 at it. Do they have 2 2Ks or a 2K 1K with leader ability? Please tell me they do not. There's no way they would. They're going to give 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Don on their leader and swing 11,000 at us. We have to take that. We do get the 2k counter off of our life, which does save us here. If they do swing into our life, they could swing into the Trafalgar Law, which I think would make sense. That wouldn't surprise me, but they are going to swing into our life for 11,000 and we can get out of it, which is absolutely ridiculous. Ladies and gentlemen, we might win here. This is absolutely crazy. I can't believe it. We're just going to have to go, I guess, 9,000 because they do have leader ability, and then 9,000 again with 2 cards in hand. That does feel a little bit scary. It all depends on this card out of life. Will they get a counter card? We need to know. They just had the counter for my last attack, so please tell me they don't have counter again or you'll break my heart. They take that hit. Now a 9,000 swing with our leader. How many counter cards do they have in their life? It's the moment of truth, ladies and gentlemen. If they played it a little bit more conservatively and cleared my Trafalgar Law, they would not be in this position, and they do, ladies and gentlemen. That feels so bad. 2 2Ks and a 1K. That was an amazing game, but man, does that feel bad to lose it. We were so close, but if they played that a little bit differently, they would have won. So yeah, it is what it is. GG's. Now on to the next matchup. We do have the Piss Kid, if you will. Just yellow Eustace Captain Kid from OP10. I did not make up the Piss Kid nickname. I think that was Car D Kazoku. For 1 Don, they will play down the Monkey D Luffy Searcher and get the OP10 Secret Rare Trafalgar Law. That card is really strong. I've never played against this leader before, so I really don't know how this matchup is going to go. I do think that we're actually going to be a decent matchup into it, though. We can bounce a lot of their bodies, especially to get around their leader ability. Man, it feels bad to not only whiff on a Sengoku, but to bottom deck a Gum Gum Red Rock at the same time. Man, that feels bad. 3 Don for them to work with. They are going to play out the 2-cost Shirahoshi, which is normally a good card, but in this matchup, we can bounce it pretty easily. 6,000 at us. I think we should counter out of this, give them the 2k Crocodile. I don't really have an amazing turn lined up right now. For 4 Don, I think playing down the 3-cost Doflamingo blocker, setting the top or bottom of my deck, and then just playing out the 1-cost Trafalgar Law blocker is probably the move, or I'll just swing with leader for 6,000, which they will take. I decided to do the Dofi cards I drew at the bottom of my deck just because I didn't see any of my big time removal like 10-cost Kaido or Gum Gum Red Rock. I really want those cards to be able to get rid of some of their bigger bodies later on in the game. They were able to get the Satori trigger out of life, and so now they're going to swing 7,000 with it. I'm debating on whether or not to use the blocker here. I think now is a fair time to take a hit. We do get the 4-cost bounce Trafalgar Law, which is a good card to find. 3 down left for them to work with. We are just going to see them throw 3 down on their leader, swing 8,000, and we will block out of that with a 3-cost Dofi. With 6 down to work with, I'm thinking we use our 4-cost Law here, bounce back a Sengoku, bounce their Shirahoshi blocker, and then we maybe play Sengoku again to do another search. Maybe we play down the 1-cost Law blocker too. We're going to do 6,000 into the Satori. I imagine they'll counter out of this. I think that's the right play. I don't know. I don't think I can go wrong either way, pressuring their board or pressuring their life. Off of Sengoku, we will take the Jinbei. That could be a nice combo piece later on. 7 down for them to work with, and they're going to play a Gadatsu for 5 to pop our Trafalgar Law. I'm not sure how popular Gadatsu is in the Eustace Captain Kidd leader, but it's interesting to see. 6,000 at us with Satori, we will counter. Then 6,000 at us with their leader, we will counter that as well. Now 8 down for us to work with. I think this might be a Gravity Blade Raging Tiger turn. We'll start off by swinging 6,000 into their leader with our leader. I actually make a little bit of a misplay, I think, and that would be using Gravity Raging Tiger before swinging with my leader. Maybe that's not the misplay, but the misplay is giving 1 down to my leader before doing that. There was no reason to do that. In case I drew a 1-cost character maybe I wanted to use, I should have left that down open. 6,000 now at their leader though. They'll take that and I will pass it back to them, barring no triggers. Hopefully there's not a trigger. I will be quite bummed out. We do have a decent amount of counter in our hand though, and yes, they do get another Satori trigger. Now the good news is that they do have to trash a card when they use the Satori trigger. That is the second one they've used. This time they'll trash a secret rare Law from OP10. That is cool with us. Getting that out of their hand is solid. 9,000 banish at us now with the Onami on the leader swing. That is pretty rough. I can get out of this if I want to, but I just let it go and we end up getting rid of a Gum Gum Red Rock. Man, does that hurt. We're going to go with the Kaya play here, try to cycle our hand a little bit. We're going to get rid of the Jinbei, and then I'm debating on who else I want to get rid of. I'm a little bit crazy, and I think I'm going to get rid of the only 2k counter in my hand, Buggy. This turn, I'm going to use Houndblaze to bottom deck the Shirahoshi. I think that's the move here, and I was debating between powering up my leader or a Sengoku. The Sengoku, if I power that up, will be able to swing into the Satori, but it gives them more of a chance to counter out of it. In hindsight, I think I would have preferred the safer play, though. Now we're going to do a Sengoku search. We're going to do Sengoku into 4-cost Trafalgar Law. We can use that to bounce back cards either to our hand or back to their hand. We're going to do 5,000 into the Satori with our Sengoku. They will counter out of that, and now I'm like, dang, maybe I should have just given it to my leader so I could have guaranteed that it dies. Most likely, they could have a ton of counter in hand, but I digress. With the bounce Law, we're going to bounce a Kaya back to our hand, and I'm considering bouncing back this Onami. I do that just so it takes off a little bit of pressure from us. Now 6,000 with our leader into the Satori, and they will 2k out of that. I wish we could have gotten it off the board, but a 2k out of hand is pretty good too. I don't think we're really in a big threat here, so it's fine. 2,000 at our Sengoku with their Monkey D. Luffy searcher. Of course, we're going to let them have this. Now they'll give a Don to Satori, swing 6,000 at us. They love swinging 6s at us. I think we just give them the with their leader ability too, they're going to be able to show the top card of their life, then turn their 8-cost Eustace Captain Kidd into a blocker. We're going to go with the Red Rock this turn so that we can bottom deck that Eustace Captain Kidd. We get to draw a card, and we do have another 1-cost Law blocker, and so we'll probably play that out as well, really trying to be defensive and protect our life. Now, we are going to swing 5,000 into that Satori. If they want to give it to us, great. That would be amazing. If not, we'll have to swing with our Trafalgar Law into it as well. Now, we can't really swing into their life because that trigger is going to KO us, the El Thor trigger. So that is a little bit awkward. It's not going to kill a big body, but it will kill our 1-cost Law blocker, and we do not want to get rid of that. So for now, we're going to play down a Sengoku searcher, draw something, look for something. We're going to take the Jinbei, and then we'll play down another 1-cost Trafalgar Law blocker. Next turn, we might put a lot of pressure on life, or we might just kind of sit back and chill. That Elf Thor is really going to be annoying. 8,000 into the 4-cost Trafalgar Law. I'm debating on blocking this or not. I don't think blocking it would be a terrible idea, just because we want to keep that attacker on the board and go for lethal sooner rather than later. They will have a 2-cost Shirahoshi down and then not do anything else with the rest of their Don cards. I imagine they just don't have a play, or maybe they decided to reconsider after they couldn't kill that Trafalgar Law. We're going to use the 10-drop Kaido, bounce back to Shirahoshi, and we're actually going to bounce back our own 1-cost Law blocker. The reason we're doing this is because it would get killed by the Elf Thor, and we do want to put pressure on their life this turn. So 5,000 at them. They might use the Elf Thor trigger, but I doubt it. They would only be able to kill a Sengoku. Now, I'm debating on swinging here. The reason I hesitate is because if they get a trigger, they might just end up winning the game. We're going to hope they don't, though. 5,000 with our 4-cost Law, and that does hit. We are in a really good position now. I think we likely win this next turn, but I don't necessarily know what kind of spice Yellow Kid is rocking with. They're going to hit us with the 5-drop Egghead Nami to pop our 5-cost Law. That's not ideal, not the end of the world though. Then a 2-cost Shirahoshi blocker and a 1-cost Monkey D. Luffy searcher. After this, they're only going to have 2 Don available. They do find the X-Drake 2K, which is good for them. Now 6,000 at our life, and I say we counter this with Pudding and Jinbei. Or maybe our 3-cost Doflamingo. I think Jinbei is the better one to get rid of than the 3-cost Dofi, because the 3-cost Dofi is a blocker at the end of the day. Now, they did leave 1 Don up for El Thor. I could go all in this turn, but I don't think I will. I think I'm going to play it a little bit defensively, and I think I do have the privilege of doing that. We can do Jozu to bounce back Sengoku to our hand, and then bounce back a Shirahoshi, and then draw a card using leader ability. We have 4 Don left up, and we can just throw down a double block between 3-cost Dofi and 1-cost Trafalgar Law. We could also try to pressure life, but we do know they have that El Thor, and I don't think that's worth it. We're going to do the 3-cost Dofi. It doesn't really matter at this point. We'll put the Jozu at the top of our life just so next turn we could use it if we want, but we also have the Gum Gum Red Rock, which will serve the same purpose. Now, if they have something that can get rid of both of my blockers, maybe a double Egghead Nami, that could be awkward, but I think we're going to be all right. They're going to give 2 Don to Nami and swing 7,000 at us. I say we block this just because we don't know what kind of cards they have and what they could do to rest our blockers. Let's get value out of them. They're going to have the X-Drake, which will rest our Don Quixote Doflamingo. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's a good thing we at least got one block out there with our Trafalgar Law. Now 5 Don left for them to work with. Either way, no matter how they split it, I think we're going to be all right. 5,000 at us with our Monkey D. Luffy, and this is an easy 1K counter. And then with that, they'll concede because the game is over. GG's. Ladies and gentlemen, what did you think about those games? I'm having a lot of fun with this leader. I think Kyros is a very nice addition to it. 7 cost, 9,000 power is so strong, and then being able to send a cost 5 or less character back to your opponent's hand can be really annoying. Let me know what other leaders you want to see in the comments down below. If you've made it this far in the video, you are a real one. I appreciate you, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. If you haven't subscribed yet, what the heck are you waiting for? We're trying to hit 1,500 by the end of the month, and with your help, we can do it. That's all I got for you today, though. Thank you for watching. Have an amazing rest of your day. Peace. Don't forget to subscribe.